Welcome to the Module 1 lecture titled, What is Transition and Why Transition Matters? In this module, I will review the basics of secondary transition. First, reviewing why public schools are required to program transition, then focus on what the key components of transition are. We will then focus on measurable post-secondary goals, which are employment, post-secondary education and training, and independent living. In the sections focusing on why transition matters, we will explore the main point of transition, how transition is student-centered, and how it relates to what occurs in the classroom and how it's communicated in the IEP. Secondary transition refers to the process that helps students with disabilities, as well as parents and guardians of children with disabilities, prepare for life after high school. This can include post-secondary, higher education, vocational training, employment, independent living, and participation in the community. The aim is to ensure that students with disabilities are well prepared to pursue their post-high school goals and to live as independently as possible. IEP teams work together to plan and implement academic and non-academic courses and programs of study that help all youth achieve successful post-high school outcomes, such as post-secondary education and training, employment, and community engagement. Transition planning typically starts in high school. However, best practice dictates that it can begin sooner depending on the student's disability and needs. It encompasses the course of study that is discussed in the IEP meeting with the purpose of supporting their measurable post-secondary goals. Transition programming can continue after a student completes 12th grade and up until the day before their 22nd birthday in Minnesota. Though the goal is to set the student up with skills and connect them with resources so they can leave the program sooner. Secondary transition planning is required under the Individuals with Disabilities Act and involves creating a tailored plan based on the student's strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. IDEA 2004 subsection C5A states, the purpose of special education is to prepare children to lead productive and independent adult lives to the maximum extent possible. This mandates that students with an IEP receive formal post-secondary transition services. Under the transition requirements, ensures that students with disabilities are adequately equipped for post-secondary education, vocational training, integrated employment, and independent living. Title 34, Code of Federal Regulations, Education, subsection 300.43, Transition Services states, transition services mean a coordinated set of activities for a child with a disability that, 1, is designed to be within a results-oriented process that is focused on improving the academic and functional achievement of the child with a disability and to facilitate the child's movement from school to post-school activities, including post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, or community participation. And 2 is based on the individual child's needs, taking into account the child's strengths, preferences, and interests. Foundationally, the 3 key components of transition start with the evaluation, IEP, and the transition services. Looking at the special education evaluation, in Minnesota, you need 1 standardized assessment and 1 informal assessment for the transition section of the evaluation. Transition assessment is an ongoing process of collecting information on the student's strengths, needs, preferences, and interests as they relate to the demands of current and future living, learning, and working environments. Many districts throughout the United States use the TPI-3 as a standardized assessment. Transition must be addressed in a special education evaluation by the time the student enters ninth grade or by the student's 14th birthday. Like all evaluations, the purpose is to collect as much information as possible to create programming for the student. The information informs the team as to what the course of study should be. Ideally, when a student is up for reevaluation, the transition section is not simply reviewed from a previous eval. The transition section should be redone, and the case manager should report on growth and use this updated information to strengthen the IEP and the course of study. In the IEP, measurable post-secondary goals need to be specific and align with the student's future ambitions. This involves collaborating with educators, parents, the student, school administration, and community agencies to help prepare the student for life after high school. Connecting families with outside agencies is essential for the student's future. As we look more in detail in Module 2 at writing the IEP, it is essential that the measurable post-secondary goals are clear and concise. These goals are long-term goals that can continue after the student leaves public education. The annual goals and objectives relay what the student is to work on in a one-year period, but should support the measurable post-secondary goals as stepping stones to their ultimate goal. An example of this is a ninth grade student has a measurable post-secondary goal that reads, "I will be a nurse." But they have a reading level of a fifth grader, like a Lexile of 1000. To support their post-secondary goal of being a nurse, the reading annual goal can be the student will go from a Lexile of 1000 to a Lexile of 1200 by their next annual IEP meeting. This goal supports the student's goal of being a nurse because in order to enter the nursing program, you will need a Lexile of at least 1300. Transition services provide activities and services to help the student achieve their goals, such as job training, life skills instruction, self-advocacy, and independence. It also lists who the agency providing the service is. The closer the student gets to finishing high school, whether they are on track to graduate or will attend a transition program, the more information and focus goes into this section. The important part of this section is to ensure it is thoroughly written and communicates who is responsible for what task. For education-related tasks, the case manager or teachers are typically listed. It could also list the school district. For employment, it is common to list a program and the agency. For example, Vocational Rehab Services, VRS. Under the activity section, I typically write the action, apply for VRS services, and then I write the person who is assigned to my school as the VRS contact, along with their information. Measurable post-secondary goals are goal statements describing what the student would like to do after high school. These are long-term goals that can extend beyond high school or a transition program. Below are the three domains with examples for each. Employment, where and what the student will do after high school. This could be competitive employment, voluntary work, as some students may not be able to be competitively employed, or the military. Post-secondary education, where and what will the student learn after high school to support their employment goal. Examples can include four-year university, two-year college, technical training, vocational training, military, apprenticeships, on-the-job trainings, Job Corps, independent living skills training, adult day training programs. Independent living focuses on how the student will participate and access things in the community, such as community participation, recreation and leisure, home living, where they will live, adult daily living, money management, personal care, communication, transportation safety, interpersonal skills, self-advocacy, as well as a transportation plan. As stated on an earlier slide, transition planning begins by ninth grade or by the student's 14th birthday. In Minnesota, the IEP must address the 3 measurable post-secondary goals for transition planning by then. In some cases, best practice dictates that transition planning begins at birth. Students with severe disabilities enter early childhood services in a programming called Birth to 3. During this time, students' families learn and access services the student qualifies for through the school district, but also through the state and county services. So, why does transition matter? The main point of transition is about helping the student live a life that they choose and connecting the right supports to make it happen. Transition matters because of the high stakes attached to educating the student and family. The purpose of transition is to bridge the gap of academic life to the real world for students with disabilities. Student directed, such as the article we read, Whose Future Is It Anyway? And person-centered practices from the MDE website provide tools to ensure that all students and their families have teams that use the most current information about their strengths, interests, and needs to make informed choices about where they will learn, work, live, and play in the most integrated settings as possible. Also, where they can be active members of their home, school, and local community. Person-centered planning is a way to help students with disabilities create a life they enjoy and feel proud of, based on their strengths, interests, and goals. It's making a plan with the student, looking at what is most important to the student and what they want to do in the future. The key parts of person-centered planning include the student is the center of the conversation. Family, friends, teachers, and other supporters are included to help brainstorm and encourage the student. The plan focuses on the student's abilities and dreams, and person-centered planning helps guide decisions about school, services, work, and life after high school. Tools for person-centered planning include the Youth in Transition Toolkit by DisabilityHubMinnesota.org. This framework focuses on students, their best life, interdependent living, employment, and post-secondary education and training. The guiding principles they lay out include the youth is at the center of transition planning, families play a key role in successful transition outcomes, transition planning should start early in the youth's life, high expectations matter, strong partnerships support a smoother transition to adulthood, and success is measured by improved youth outcomes. Learning expectations define the topics all youth in transition should explore, which include self-awareness, developing a vision, advocating, planning for what their best life looks like, daily life, community living, money, healthy living, safety, recreation, advocacy, and supports. Career exploration, work-based learning, benefits planning, managing the job process, post-secondary options, enrollment, financial aid, and skills for success. Designing instruction for transition students starts with writing an effective IEP. IEPs focused on transition provide a roadmap for students with disabilities, ensuring they have the necessary support and resources to achieve their full potential and leading fulfilling independent lives. A well-written transition IEP lays the groundwork for the future learning by providing a plan that addresses a student's individual needs, strengths, and goals. Clear post-secondary goals, such as employment, post-secondary education, and independent living skills. Clear list of transition services, activities, and agencies providing transition services, specialized instruction, development of employment skills, community participation, and lastly, course of study. Implementing the IEP in a classroom setting can look many ways, but the foundation will be the same. Employment, post-secondary education and training, and independent living skills will be the focus so the students' outcomes can be as good as possible. When a student is taking classes to support their post-secondary goals, there are many ways this can look. For example, in a class that is focusing on employment, such as work experience class, staff can support students in finding competitive employment, volunteer work, military on-the-job trainings. In a class that supports post-secondary education and training, staff can help the student focus on what two-year college or four-year university have the programs they want to pursue, technical training and what facilities offer learning for the skills they desire, vocational training and how the specialized training can support them in a trade industry, apprenticeship programs in the trades, programs like Job Corps to further their education and training to start those independent living skills, and adult day training programs and how these might support the student's future. Classes that help support independent living skills include adult daily living, can focus on daily living things adults do on a daily basis. Money management teaches students how to budget, save money for big purchases, and prepare students for tasks like budgeting, shopping, and cooking meals. Personal care and the daily routines adults do to maintain proper hygiene, like showering, brushing teeth, cleaning, washing clothes and dishes. Communication skills is important for self-advocacy and how to maintain healthy relationships with peers. Transportation safety can include creating a transportation plan and backup plans, which can include family, friends, but also Metro Transit, ride shares, and programs like Metro Mobility. Self-advocacy is a topic that both directly and indirectly are taught. Students need to know how to communicate their needs and find the resources that they need to live. The whole purpose of transition is to improve youth outcomes. Consistent and equitable transition planning for youth and families supports a stronger and more agile system for all. Educating the family on resources and supports is essential. There will be a day when the school bus stops showing up, and the students and families need to be prepared for this. Clear expectations and more streamlined planning experiences help future youth outcomes. Understanding transition and recognizing the importance of it helps professionals gain clarity and efficiency for youth and families in transition.